welcome to Griffonomics.
It is great to be back.
So today is Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. And I have to be honest with you, when I saw the topic for today, I almost hit the snooze button.
Uh-oh.
You pitched me Johnson Controls International, and my brain immediately went to, that beige thermostat on the wall of my elementary school classroom.
The one that was locked inside a plastic box so nobody could touch it.
Exactly that one. So I'm looking at the ticker, JCI, and I'm expecting this sleepy, old-school industrial stock.
Right.
But then I looked at the morning trading wire. This company, which has been around since the 1880s, is putting up growth numbers that look like a Silicon Valley software startup. What on earth is going on?
It's a massive transformation.
Yeah.
And, you're right to be skeptical because usually these industrial giants, they move at the speed of a glacier.
Right.
But JCI has effectively reinvented itself. They aren't really about building solutions in the boring sense anymore. Today, we are talking about the physical lungs of the AI revolution.
The lungs of AI. I like that.
It's really the only way to describe it. We've got a massive stack of sources to get through today. The Q1 fiscal year 2026 earnings transcript, which just dropped, the 10K filings, and some really dense technical reports on chiller mechanics.
Yeah, okay.
But the mission is simple. We need to figure out how this old thermostat company managed to position itself as the one thing keeping the entire AI infrastructure from literally melting down.
Okay, let's dive in. But before we get to all the AI stuff, we have to address the fact that the company just looks physically different than it did, say, 2 years ago.
It's a completely different company.
I remember them selling everything from car batteries to residential AC units.
That was the old JCI. They were a classic conglomerate, a little bit of everything, and, a master of nothing. Over the last 18 months, they executed what they call portfolio simplification.
That sounds like corporate jargon.
It does, but it was actually a brutal, necessary surgery.
They cut off the limbs to save the body.
In a way, yes. The biggest headline was them selling their residential and light commercial HVAC business to Bosch. That was a huge deal.
How huge are we talking?
Roughly $5.6 billion. They also got out of air distribution technologies and sold off their security business in Mexico.
Hold on, why sell the residential business? I mean, people always need air conditioning at home. Global warming is a thing. It seems like a steady cash cow.
It is steady, but it's also cyclical. Think about it. Buying a new AC for your house is tied to interest rates, the housing market, consumer confidence.
Right, if the economy dips, you put that purchase off for another year.
Exactly. JCI decided they just didn't want to ride that roller coaster anymore. They wanted to become a pure play operator.
Pure play, we hear that phrase a lot. What does that actually mean in this context?
It means focus, laser focus. They decided to concentrate entirely on complex commercial environments. Think skyscrapers, hospitals, and most importantly, data centers.
High margin, high complexity projects.
Right. A homeowner might delay fixing their AC, but a hospital or a data center, they absolutely cannot function without thermal management. It's mission critical.
So they traded the volume of selling millions of window units for the complexity of cooling the most expensive buildings on the planet.
Precisely. And that pivot, that let them implement a new business system.
Yeah.
When you aren't distracted by selling to consumers, you can optimize the heck out of your commercial operations.
And that operational discipline is what set the stage for the numbers we saw this morning.
It's what made them possible.
Okay, let's get to those numbers, because surprising feels like a massive understatement.
It was a complete blowout.
This is the Q1 fiscal year 2026 report.
Yeah.
Revenue up 7% to $5.8 billion, which, for a giant company, 7% is respectable. It's fine.
It's fine. But that is not why the stock is moving. Revenue is a lagging indicator. It tells you what happened yesterday. You have to look at the orders. That tells you what's going to happen tomorrow.
And the orders went vertical. Organic orders exploded by 39%.
Let's pause on that for a second. 39% for an industrial hardware company.
And just so we're clear, organic means this isn't from buying another company to boost the numbers, right?
Exactly. That's the key. This is pure demand for their existing products. And if you zoom in on the Americas region specifically,
it was even crazier. Orders were up 56%.
56% growth. It sounds like a typo.
It's not a typo, though.
It's a tidal wave. And let's be very, very clear where that wave is coming from. It is not office buildings. It is not shopping malls.
It's data centers.
It is almost entirely driven by data centers, the hyperscalers.
Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Meta.
Exactly. They are building out AI infrastructure at a pace we have never seen in human history. And every single one of those servers generates heat.
Sure.
Massive amounts of heat.
And this creates a weird split in the financials, doesn't it? I noticed revenue grew 6% organically, but orders grew 39%. That's a huge gap.
It's a massive divergence, but it's a really positive one. It means the money hasn't even hit the bank account yet.
Okay, so when orders outpace revenue by that much,
Your backlog just swells up.
and the backlog is now sitting at a record $18.2 billion.
Think of that backlog as an insurance policy, or maybe a guaranteed paycheck. In a volatile world, knowing you have $18.2 billion of work legally contracted for the next 12 to 24 months, that gives you incredible defensive visibility.
So even if the economy tanks tomorrow, they have work to do for the next 2 years.
Pretty much. And they're getting more profitable while doing it. They mentioned that adjusted EBIT margins expanded by 190 basis points to 12.4%.
Okay, English tease. 190 basis points.
Sorry, force of habit. A basis point is just 1/100%. So 190 basis points is just under 2%.
So for every dollar of sales, they're keeping an extra 2 cents of pure profit compared to last year.
Exactly. At billions of dollars of scale, that is a mountain of cash.
So they're selling more
Yeah.
and making more on everything they sell. It sounds like a dream scenario. But it wasn't always this obvious.
No, not at all.
I want to go back to something that happened earlier this year. Because looking at the stock today, you'd think JCI was inevitable. But just a few months ago, there was real fear that their core technology was about to become obsolete.
The NVIDIA crisis, or at least the panic around it.
Set the scene for us. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, the guy in the leather jacket, he gets on stage and announces the Vera Rubin chip platform. And suddenly, JCI investors start sweating. Why?
It came down to a physics problem, or maybe a misunderstanding of physics by Wall Street. The new NVIDIA architecture, it runs hotter, much hotter, but it's designed to handle warm water cooling.
Warm water.
We're talking about water entering the system at 45 degrees Celsius.
Wait, let me do the math. It's like 113 degrees Fahrenheit. That is basically hot tub water.
It is warm, so the investors looked at that and said, wait a minute, if the chips can handle 45-degree water, we don't need these expensive mechanical chillers from JCI anymore.
Right. They thought they could just run a pipe outside.
And use a fan to blow air over the water and cool it down. They call that free cooling.
Why pay for a giant refrigerator unit when the outside air is cooler than the water?
Yeah.
It seemed like JCI was about to get cut out of the loop.
That was the narrative. The chiller is dead. But JCI didn't panic. They actually had a hold my beer moment.
What did they know that the market didn't?
They knew about wet bulb temperatures and density. See, free cooling sounds great if you're building a data center in, say, Iceland or Norway.
Sure.
But where are these AI factories actually being built?
Texas, Arizona, Virginia, places that get hot.
Exactly. If you are in Phoenix, Arizona in July, the ambient air temperature can be 110 or 115 degrees Fahrenheit. You literally cannot cool 113-degree water using 115-degree air.
The laws of thermodynamics get in the way.
They forbid it. You cannot transfer heat to something that is hotter than the source. So in those climates, you still need a mechanical compressor. You need a chiller.
Okay, so that's one fact.
And there's another one, density. These new AI racks are so incredibly dense with power that relying on the variability of the weather is just a massive risk. You need guaranteed, consistent thermal rejection.
So JCI's response wasn't just to argue with investors. They actually launched a new product, right?
They did, and this is the genius part. They didn't get disrupted. They proved they were co-authoring the rulebook.
What do you mean?
It turns out JCI engineers were working with NVIDIA the whole time. They co-authored a technical reference guide to show exactly how JCI equipment fits into the blueprints of these future AI factories.
So while Wall Street was selling the stock, JCI engineers were sitting in a conference room with NVIDIA designing the whole system.
And they launched the York Y Dam to prove it.
The Y Dam. What's special about that?
It's an air-cooled magnetic bearing chiller. But the key spec is that it's engineered specifically to handle that high-temperature warm water loop. They optimized everything to work efficiently at those specific pressures.
So they basically said, okay, you want warm water, we will build you the best warm water machine on the planet.
Correct. And they also introduced the YorCry YKHT. The HT stands for heat recovery.
So you can use that heat for something else.
Exactly. If you have 113-degree water coming off your chips, that's actually a valuable resource. Instead of just dumping that heat into the atmosphere, the YKHT captures it to heat the office building next door or a district heating system. It saves water, it saves energy.
That's a brilliant pivot. They turned what looked like an existential threat into a whole new product line.
And that leads us to their broader strategy. Because JCI isn't just selling one box to put on the roof. They're talking about something called the thermal backbone.
I saw that phrase in the notes. It sounds incredibly dramatic. The thermal backbone. What does it actually mean?
It means they want to own the heat transfer at every single step of the process. Think of it as a chain with 3 links.
Okay, walk me through the links.
Link 1 is right at the server rack, the chip itself. JCI expanded into a market called CDU's coolant distribution units.
That's the plumbing right next to the silicon.
Exactly. It manages the liquid loop right there. This is a new area for them. They're moving closer to the chip.
Okay, so that's link 1.
Then, link 2 is the air handling. This comes from their Silent Air franchise. Silent Air is a massive leader in hyperscale air handlers. These are the giant metal lungs you see on the side of data centers.
Got it. And link 3.
Link 3 is the external heat rejection. That's the URK chiller we just talked about, sitting outside, dumping the final heat load into the sky.
So if I'm Amazon or Microsoft, I don't have to buy a CDU from company A, an air handler from company B, and a chiller from company C.
That's the pitch. JCI comes in and says, we will handle the temperature of that electron from the chip all the way to the atmosphere, and they can optimize the software across that whole chain.
And it seems to be working. I saw they just tripled their manufacturing capacity for air handlers and CDUs.
You don't do that unless you know someone is going to buy this stuff.
Exactly. But here's the elephant in the room. We've seen plenty of old industrial companies come up with great strategies, but then they fail because they just can't execute. They're too slow, too bureaucratic. How is JCI actually building all this stuff on time?
That's where the CEO, Joakim Weidemanis, comes in. He is obsessed with what he calls the business system.
The business system. It sounds like something from a corporate retreat PowerPoint.
It does, but you have to look at the results. He implemented this philosophy of simplify, accelerate, amplify, and we have a concrete example from the earnings call that shows it's really working.
This is the on-time delivery step.
Yes. They talked about one of their key chiller factories. They improved on-time delivery from 95% to 100%.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here. 95 to 100%. Is that really a big deal? I mean, 95% sounds pretty good to me.
In consumer retail, 95 is fine. In the world of hyperscale AI, 95% is a disaster.
Why?
You have to understand the scale of these projects. A data center costs billions of dollars. If the chillers are 3 days late, you can't turn on the servers. That delay could cost the customer tens of millions of dollars in lost compute time.
I see. So going to 100% isn't just nice to have. It's a competitive weapon.
It is the difference between winning the contract and losing it. Reliability is the new currency.
They also mentioned using AI internally to help their sales teams.
This was fascinating. They used AI tools to cut down the administrative paperwork for their HVAC salespeople. The result: the sellers doubled the amount of time they spent face-to-face with customers.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That's effectively doubling your sales force without hiring a single new person.
It is, and it feeds right into their services business. You know, we talk about the big machines, but 32% of their sales come from services, maintenance, repairs, software.
And they have a new trick to lock that revenue in. Smart-ready chillers.
This is brilliant. Every new chiller they ship now comes with AI sensors embedded from day one. They call it Smart Ready. It means the machine can diagnose itself.
So it calls for help before it breaks down.
Yes, and the data showed this reduces unplanned service calls by 32%. But from a business perspective, it locks the customer into a high-margin service contract immediately. You turn on the chiller, you turn on the data subscription.
Makes that revenue stickier.
Very sticky.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've got record orders, a massive backlog, a successful pivot to data centers, and they're executing really well. What are they doing with all the cash? I mean, they got that huge check for $5.6 billion from Bosch.
They are not sitting on it. They announced a $5 billion accelerated share repurchase program.
So they're buying back their own stock.
Aggressively, they're shrinking the share count. And combined with all the operational performance, they raised their guidance for the year.
For what?
They're now projecting fiscal year 2026 earnings per share to be around $4.70. That represents roughly 25% growth year over year.
25% earnings growth. Again, these are numbers that usually belong in Silicon Valley, not Milwaukee.
It just validates the whole strategy. The investigative report we reviewed, it rates JCI as a high conviction BUY.
Why high conviction? What's the core argument there?
Because it offers this really rare combination. Usually you have to choose. Do you want a safe, boring stock? Or do you want a risky, high-growth AI stock?
Right.
JCI gives you both.
Mhm.
You get the safety of that $18.2 billion industrial backlog, so your downside is protected. But you also get the explosive upside exposure to the AI infrastructure boom.
Risk defined, portfolio protected.
That's the phrase they used.
It really is a fascinating turnaround. I mean, thinking back to the start of this conversation,
Yeah.
the idea that the company making the thermostat could pivot to become the backbone of the entire AI era. That's just wild.
It is, and it completely changes how you look at a building.
It does. But before we wrap up, you left a note at the very end of the outline about life sciences. We haven't talked about that at all. What's the connection there?
Yeah, I wanted to leave you with a provocation, a thought for the future. We spent this entire deep dive talking about data centers, and rightfully so, that's the engine right now.
Sure.
But if you look closely at the transcript, management also flagged very healthy growth in life sciences and pharma.
Okay. And why is that?
Think about where AI is going next. It's moving into biology. AlphaFold, drug discovery, biologics. As AI begins to design new, complex biological drugs, those drugs have to be manufactured. And biologic manufacturing requires even stricter temperature and humidity controls than server rooms do.
Oh, I see where you're going with this. The AI invents the drug in the server room,
Yes,
but the factory that physically makes the drug needs even more precise climate control.
exactly. So my question is this. Is JCI positioning itself to own the thermal management of the entire life cycle of AI innovation, from the digital creation in the server room to the biological manufacturing in the lab?
From silicon to cells.
From silicon to cells. If they can dominate the thermal backbone of data, surely the thermal backbone of biology is next.
That is a massive idea to mull over. It seems like staying cool is going to be a very, very profitable business for a long time.
It's all just heat transfer in the end.
Thanks for diving deep with us on Griffonomics.
Thanks for having me.